Hello, everybody, and Jason Sample, are we ready to go live?
You're live.
Okay, we are live on YouTube right now. On behalf of the Friends of Chautauqua County Greenway Group, I want to give everybody a welcome to our fourth public meeting. Hard to believe it's four. I'm T. John McCune. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Chautauqua County Greenways. And with me is Twan, as always, the other co-chair of the group. We appreciate everybody coming here tonight to learn about a lot of the great things happening in the county on trails, and on that really cool thing about Chautauqua County Trails Day, with more to come on that one. But the one thing we want to talk about a little bit too is a lot of the work that we're doing is grounded in the 2012 Greenway plan, which was an incredibly insightful plan, and a big shout out to Mark Geis for all of his help on that one. So if you can join me in showing appreciation for all of his help and everybody else, because a lot of the work that we're doing now is grounded in the work that Mark did and others did at that time, which is incredible, because sometimes it takes that vision and everybody coming together to lay that successful groundwork. But on here, you can read through a few points on here, and I know we have a lot of content, so I want to keep things moving. But I'm here really kind of conceptualizing, what does the future of the trails look like in Chautauqua County? And, with this, with creating that top 10 recommendation based upon that too. And the nice thing and the neat thing is a lot of the work that was laid out, we're making good progress, and there's actually a good amount completed as well too. So that's very cool. With that as well too, that kind of laid the groundwork for Friends of Chautauqua County Greenways on there. And for those that don't know who we are, we're a group of organizations coming together to help embrace the larger vision of the Greenway plan. So really looking at all those trail users, those stakeholders group, and we're getting more and more people joining us. And as expressed, I'm one of the co-chairs from Chautauqua Rails to Trails, and Twan's the other co-chair from the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy. And a big thank you that we want to put out there too is FCCG, because as we came through this, we needed a host organization for the Friends group, and FCCG was gracious to allow us to live underneath their institutional home. So we want to give a big shout out and appreciation to everybody in FCCG. And a big one too that we want to give thanks to is Jacob Boatway on here, because Jacob serves as the FCCG Trail Consultant since 2022. And anybody who's talked to Jacob, they know his passion, his enthusiasm, and with his energy, a lot of great things have happened. So if you can join us in showing appreciation for Jacob, please. And on that note, really, what we're doing is we're collaborating. All these groups are coming together to support this larger vision and larger process. And I'm going to turn it over to Twan, that's going to talk a little bit more about Friends of Chautauqua County Greenways.
Thank you, John. So I see a lot of familiar faces here. I see a few new faces here too. So I think it was important to just have a little bit of a history of the organization here. And like John said, we're all volunteers. We're all representing a variety of different trail groups or other groups that have an interest in promoting tourism and environmental enjoyment and recreational uses of our beautiful trails. But having this friends group and having the ability to sort of all work under one umbrella, so we all sort of collectively work together in a unified way in a certain direction, so we're not all scattered running into opposite directions, is a huge strength of this organization. So even though each organization that's part of this friends group works independently, we're all sort of finding a home together underneath this friends group right here. And I'm not going to read this whole list, but in the last few years that we've been acting in this way under this umbrella, all these different groups have raised their own grants. We've been working through the county. We're working because CTPAG is also not just our institutional home, but also our financial home, our financial sponsor, which allows us to tap into grants that otherwise the individual groups would not be able to reach, for example. So together, we're so much stronger in developing all these different initiatives. And really, in the last 4 years, almost $1 million have been raised in a variety of projects by the different groups together. And honestly, I think we're actually over that number by now at this point. So we're here tonight to to hear from all the different groups and all of their updates, to hear all the exciting plans, all the major accomplishments that these individual groups have actually accomplished until today, and what we have in store for this year, this beautiful summer that's coming up. It's at least 6 hours old at this point, right? Let's see how long it lasts. We also have one other really exciting item that we wanted to talk a little bit about, because not only are these trails fantastic in terms of being able to give ourselves an outlet to go out into nature and engage in our favorite pastimes, be it hiking or biking or kayaking or birding or whatever it is that draws you outside. But it's also really important to realize that everything that we do to sort of help our own interests also brings attention to the outside world. It brings people from outside here. And obviously people coming from outside of Chautauqua County or New York State coming here to enjoy this infrastructure that we're sort of together building has a huge economic impact as well. So it's not just for our own pleasure to just go out and play in the woods and have the best trails ever, but it's really becoming an economic driver for this region and an economic interest to do more of that. And for example, for my organization, coming from the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy, we're not necessarily big on kayaking or biking or anything like that, but from our interests, we're also very much interested in making sure that we have these greenways, these green corridors going through our landscape, and these blueways, these blue corridors going through our landscape, so that when people hop on the trail and would like to go 20, 30 miles, they can actually stay in these green corridors and go through the beautiful scenery, go through the woods, stay on the creeks, and not suddenly find themselves in a scrapyard or next to a garbage dump, for example. So it all sort of works together in that we're trying to get these environmental awareness. We're raising the environmental awareness by getting people outside, and we're also increasingly getting people excited about using these resources. So again, I'm not going to read all these numbers right here, but they're pretty staggering to see how many people actually already are coming here to enjoy the resources that we enjoy so much. So the more we can do to improve this, the more we can grow this. So one thing that we really wanted to do to draw more attention to the fact that we have these trails, because the trails were identified in the 2012 Greenway plan. Last year that the trail maps, the online trail maps were released. So we have these beautiful collaborative mapping platforms for people to enjoy right now, but it seems like we have to keep drawing attention to the trails because we have such incredible resources, and often people in town don't even know that they exist. So one of the things that we would like to do, and that we're really excited about doing now, is actually organizing the first official inaugural Chautauqua County Trails Day on June 21st, which will be a week from Saturday. The sun will be shining. It will be beautiful. And if you haven't seen it yet, let me just see if I can pull it up really quickly. There are a lot of activities planned already, and I'm not sure if you can really see it very well in this event schedule here, but there's a website, choosechq.com, and then you go to CHQ Trails Day. You can read all the information of all the different activities that the various groups that represent the Friends group have already put on. So there's picnics in the county park, there's a bird walk in one of our preserves, family-friendly hikes, more hikes. There's mountain bike rides for people who've never been on a mountain bike. They can try this just try it on for size. If the weather does cooperate, we're hoping to actually have kayak trips on the recently cleared Martin Cobb Waterway, a short section. So we'll actually have kayaks available for people who've never done this before, just to see how beautiful it is for the first time in decades. All kinds of activities. So I encourage you to go check out these resources. They're out there. I do also want to encourage you to check with the individual trail group that's organizing a specific event if you're interested in something, because the weather has been somewhat unpredictable lately and things happen. So all of these events are still on, but I do encourage you to check with the actual hosting group a day or two before the event to make sure that nothing has changed at the last minute, timing, locations, or anything like that. So we're really excited about this, and we're hoping that we're going to get a great turnout and lots of people coming out all over the county to actually enjoy these incredible resources that we have. It would be a great chance for anybody to just go try these on for the first time ever, and you'll be hosted by whichever trail group happens to be putting on their favorite activities, so you'll be in great hands. Like I said, the sun will be shining, so it's going to be awesome. And we're really excited too to know that the Chautauqua County is actually behind this initiative. And our guys is here tonight to actually officially declare our Chautauqua County Trails Day a reality.
Yeah, before I read this proclamation, I just wanted to say that how thrilled I am with all the work that's going on. I was thinking about a lot of different things, but one thing, you talk about the economic impact. We had Lauren Sharp in our department just sort of do a high-level analysis of what the economic impact is of the snowmobilers just in this last year. And she estimated over $10 million of economic impact just from the snowmobilers. So, I mean, if you multiply that by the equestrians, the mountain bikers, the hikers, it's a huge number. I'd love to figure that out someday. Then the other thing I was thinking was, it even is bigger than just letting people know about our beautiful natural assets. We've had population decline here in Chautauqua County since 1970. And, what do you do about that? And, Jason Sample, who's here tonight, is our marketing coordinator for the IDA and CPAG. And we developed a marketing campaign, the Live CHQ and the Choose CHQ campaign, to really highlight all the things there are to do here. What a great place it is to live, and the low cost of living, on and on and on, right? But one of the premier things, and the people that are really gravitating towards on our website are the trails. So we can see it, we can see the hits that we're getting, where we're getting them from. So the idea of taking our trails that we already have and improving them, which haven't had improvement since I think they were built, really. I mean, some here and there, but is a big deal. So I really appreciate the fact that John and Twan and Jacob and everyone else, all the work you're doing, because it really is very impactful and very important, very, very important. So this is a proclamation from the county. I'm reading it on behalf of County Executive PJ Wendell. So this is Office of County Executive, Chautauqua County, New York proclamation. Whereas Chautauqua County is home to a diverse and expansive trail system that supports year-round outdoor recreation for residents and visitors alike, contributing to the physical, mental, and economic well-being of our community. And whereas the county recognizes the critical role trails play in fostering healthy lifestyles, promoting environmental stewardship, and enhancing our regional quality of life. And whereas the Friends of Chautauqua County Greenways, an organization under Chautauqua County Partnership for Economic Growth, has taken a leadership role in bringing together private and public partners to improve and expand our trail system. And whereas on June 21st, 2025, the Friends of Chautauqua County Greenways will host Chautauqua County Trails Day, featuring a wide array of community-led activities across the county, organized by dedicated trail user groups, including Rails to Trails, the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy, equestrian organizations, county parks, mountain bike groups, and cross-country skiing enthusiasts. And whereas these events reflect the spirit of collaboration and appreciation for Chautauqua County's natural resources, and they highlight the many opportunities available to explore and enjoy our region's beautiful landscapes. And whereas Chautauqua County continues to invest in trail infrastructure, accessibility, and preservation efforts to ensure that current and future generations can enjoy the many benefits of outdoor recreation. Now therefore, I, Paul M. Wendell Jr., Chautauqua County Executive, do hereby proclaim Saturday, June 21st, 2025 as Chautauqua County Trails Day. In Chautauqua County, and I encourage all residents and visitors to participate in the day's events, discover new trails, and celebrate the natural beauty and community partnerships that make Chautauqua County a leader in outdoor recreation. I, witness whereof, have hereto set my hand and caused the seal of Chautauqua County to be affixed on the 21st day of June, 2025. Paul M. Wendell Jr.
Thank you, Mark. So now we've come to the part where individual groups will actually share all their accomplishments. So I will pop up your preferred slide, and if you feel like you would like to speak a little bit about the accomplishments for your group, feel free to come up and do so. And we're going to start with Jason Sample.
Okay.
You're next.
So I think I'm up here partially because my coworker Rebecca Worster was unable to make it tonight, but she's really been a driving force working with Jacob, Mark, Nate Aldrich, and the entire Friends Group team to help coalesce all of the efforts that have been taking place the past several years and put them under a single umbrella that is Friends of Chautauqua County Greenways. But part of my work along with Jacob and Rebecca was trying to find a place on our new website, choosechq.com, to house the interactive trails map that was created through, I think, the marketing firm and the consulting firm, Barton and Judas, who assisted with that effort. They did a great job with this interactive map. It really works well on a laptop, or if you're working from your home PC or on a tablet. Not so much on phones, although there is a workaround with that thanks to the hard work by Jacob to do a walkthrough using the Avenza apps. But as you can see, we have a site on choosechq.com, and you can find it just by going to chqtrails.org. It'll redirect you to our landing page on our own platform website, where you'll find the interactive map that has over 250 miles of recreational trails, good for just about anything you can imagine that you want to use the trails for, whether it be snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, hiking, mountain biking, even kayaking, equestrian trails. The list goes on and on and on. And a lot of people say, well, where can I go in Chautauqua County to take advantage of all these trails that are available to the public to use? No cost to use. You simply show up, park your car, or walk there, and then hit the trails, right? Where do we go to find out where all these trails are at? There really wasn't a singular place to find that. Well, we have it now thanks to this interactive trails map that was created at chqtrails.org. And it's the second most visited website on our entire platform. We've thrown a lot of marketing money behind livechq.org, which is that talent attraction and retention effort that we launched about a year ago now to educate people from outside the county and even people in the county about the benefits of living in Chautauqua County. So LiveCHQ gets a lot of marketing money, so it gets a lot of traffic to its website, of course. But behind that, second, is the CHQ Trails Map, and I think it really indicates and illustrates the important role that the trails have in Chautauqua County, because so many people are going there to learn about these trails, identify where they can go close to home or on the other side of the county for a day out in the woods or out on the trails and really enjoy the natural environment that we have to offer. So as you can see there, the site launched not even a year ago, or just about a year ago. We launched the site. We started marketing it heavily in the end of June 2024. And we've had close to 20,000 visits to that webpage. Over 14,000 now unique users have come to that site to learn more about the trails in the area, whether it be Roger Tory Peterson or the Overland Trails or the Heron Trails. The list goes on and on and on. All the trails available for the public can be found on that site. And if they can't, there's a way you can inform us to add them to that site. So it's not a static site at all. We can continue to modify it, update it, and provide more details. There's details and instructions on the website itself that tells you how to update your own trail network if you see it on there and it's a little out of date. Because as we know, we're constantly revamping and redoing these trails, which Jacob will be talking about here shortly. And so they'll consistently change over the years, but we'll be able to take care of that on the website. I think that's about it. Of course, also the webpage for Trails Day is there, as Tuan noted, and that's also under Choose CHQ, so you can find that relatively easily as well. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Jacob Bodway. I'm trail coordinator for CPEG. Just a quick anecdote. Last March, Parks and Trails New York came to Buffalo to kind of have a regional trails symposium. And I was there and Jody was there, and each county presented on what they're doing, and Chautauqua County was first. And I presented on what we're doing, and then Allegheny County was second. And the person who was presenting in Allegheny County said, I really wish I didn't have to follow these guys. Because what they're doing in Chautauqua County is just, so, and the key word I kept on stating was collaboration. We're working together. All the trail user groups we understand that everybody wants to be outside and everybody wants well-maintained trails. And I think by working together, we're able to find additional funding, but also we're just breaking down silos and making new friends in the process amongst each trail user group. So I'm really, really proud of that. So from the county's perspective, CPEG's perspective, we just completed phase 4 of the Overland Trail project. Last year, and Tom Wright, could you raise your hand real quickly? Tom was the person with Greg Snow who did most of the work. We've so far currently raised almost $500,000 for the Overland Trails. Wow. Which is pretty amazing. Phase 5 will be happening in Boutwell Hill State Forest. We have a couple wetland things we're going to work through with the DEC, but we hope to get that started pretty soon. And also, we did a grant for game of logging last year. We got, maybe 60 people certified to the game of logging. And as all of you know, the ash trees are coming down in the county. So when we have an obstacle on a trail, we now can go out there and have the certification to go out and remove that trail, and also the training to do it safely. So that's really important. And also, I'm excited to announce that we hired Lavella Associates, and we're going to revisit the master plan for the Barcelona to Chautauqua Institution Trail, which will take people from Barcelona and Westfield all the way up to the institution. Now, we'll be using a little bit more roadways. However, I'm hoping that once the trail gets put in, some of the private property owners might say, you know what, this isn't so bad. Come on to our property, and we can use the original blueprint. So a lot of exciting things are happening countywide. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Jamie Reynolds from the Chautauqua County Parks Department. I don't think anybody from the Parks Department has ever spoken at one of these meetings. So the Parks Department is a small department. We have 2 full-time employees in addition to myself, and then a staff of 4 seasonal employees. We're charged with the day-to-day maintenance of the overland trails, the waterway trails, and then our developed parks. Jacob's done an awesome job with the trails. So I'm going to focus a little more on our developed parks. The county has 3 developed parks. I get asked a lot, or commented that people don't even know that the county has county-maintained parks, but we do. We have 3. Mill Race Park in Faulkner behind Fancher Chair, and then I'm going to focus on our 2 overland trail or overview parks today. The Lunsman Overview Park is on the hill above Lake Erie in the town of Portland, outside of Brockton. It's about 75 acres. There's approximately 1 acre loop trail, and there is a natural history trail guide for that park that we are currently hoping by very soon to get revamped. So the trail guides have become scarce. So if you come across one, it's kind of a rare thing. So we're hoping to take that a little bit more into the modern age here. And we have had a couple projects up there. We've just installed a new flagpole, and we have totally renovated the bathrooms, and they are open and ready for use. And we do have a pavilion there that is available for picnics and reservations and that. Our second park is Erlinson Overview Park, and that's on Oak Hill Road outside of Frewsburg, and that's also about 75 acres. There's also a pavilion there available to rent, and there's a couple different view stations there. On a good clear day, you can look to the west and see Chautauqua Lake way off in the distance, like a little puddle up on the horizon. And then to the north, you can see into the hills of Chautauqua and Cattaraugus County. And to the south, you can look down into Pennsylvania. And the terrain there is very rolling and very pretty. And Tom Erlinson has told me that that is the southern terminus of the glaciers. That's about as far south as they came, and that's why the terrain is like it is. And there's also a 1 mile loop hiking trail there. So I encourage everybody to go out and visit those parks. I will mention just a couple other things we have going on. Along the overland trails and the waterway launches and at the parks, we do have sign-in boxes. We've had those for a number of years, and we recently added QR codes to those. So I encourage everybody to either scan the QR code, it'll take you to a Google form, and you can sign in that way if you're in a hurry and just want to buzz by, or you can stop and still sign in. We'll still be having the paper sheets with pencils in there, and we love to read everybody's notes and who's been there. And I should note that the parks, our county parks are very well used and very well attended and very respectful of them. We do have a couple upcoming projects that we've been working on. We are going to be working with our kayak launches. We have some funding set aside to restore and improve those launches. And we also will be working, hopefully this year, depending on permits, on some bridge replacement along the overland trails. And looking further into the future, we will be doing some lean-to replacements along the trails too. So there's a lot of good things going on, like Jacob said. So thank you very much.
E-Club.
I'll take it.
Thank you. Bill Sherman's not here today, unfortunately.
No, Bill's in Spain.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, that's cute.
Okay, I'm short, guys. Hi, I'm Missy Whittington, and I'm president of the Chautauqua County Equestrian Trail System. Why I'm up for the Bothwell Hill Ski Club is we mentored the ski club this past 2 years on getting a grant for their newest loop, the Homestead Trail. And we're very excited that it's about to be completed. Bothwell Hill Ski Club is a very small 501c3. It's maintained in the winter by maybe 2 guys that groom, but they are groomed cross-country ski trails. They are gorgeous, and they do have access for snowshoeing, and you can hike. I wouldn't really recommend it in Bothwell because the snow's probably up to your hips. But if you want to, there is, you can peg your way through. But they are groomed, they do a great job, and this past winter, the attendance was absolutely over the top, so very happy to see that. The Bothwell Hill Ski Club received a grant from Parks and Trails New York that came in at just under $270,000. And there was a match to that, and CCPEG was a part of that match, along with fundraising and in-kind hours. So there's been a lot of money committed to this Homestead Trail. And why is sadly because Chautauqua County is dealing with a lot of invasive species, and one of the worst ones has been the emerald ash borer beetle. As a part of this remediation, in the grant written, the count was 272 hazard trees would need to come down, and they were mostly all ash. At the end of the clearing of the hazard trees, they took down 322 trees. So as a part of this, we will be regenerating the forest. And this past I Love My Parks Day, 100 white pine have been planted. And the other day, I was in with Teresa, our forester, Teresa Draves, the forester for the DEC of Chautauqua County. And we completed the remediation, regeneration and replanting. And we will be replanting 32 sites in the Homestead area with understory plantings that are good for birds and turkeys and rabbit and fox and deer. And we'll be providing berries and nuts, and it's gonna just be great. It'll take a little time to regenerate, but that's what we're doing. But we'll also be removing another invasive species, and it's a type of honeysuckle. So that needs to take place. So we're looking for volunteers to help do that for the ski club and CCETS. So you can kind of get a hold of me. I think my stuff is here someplace that you can reach out. But we're very actively doing that. Bill and Kevin are very proud of the project, and they worked very hard on it. And looking forward to the grand opening on the 21st with the ribbon cutting. And they're cooking hot dogs. So, okay. So now my real job. I am a very proud president of this organization, and we became an official 501c3 in June of 2017. Prior to that, we were working with the CCIDA, and the CCIDA shepherded us through and helped get monies dedicated for improvements of trails in Botwell Hill for equestrian usage, dedicated equestrian usage. That came in from ARC that the county applied for and matched, and it came in at over $300,000. Yeah, it was a big deal and a lot of work, but we were very excited. We've grown, we've brought in more monies. CCETS has just completed last fall a year-long strategic plan, and that was funded by Parks and Trails New York. It solidified our bylaws. We downsized our board. We've become a much more efficient organization, so look out. But we're really doing great things, and a part of the things that we did have happen is we brought in another area of state forest land, and that's the North Harmony State Forest. And so now Botwell and North Harmony fall under the umbrella of Chautauqua County Equestrian Trail System. So between those two, on public lands, we have over 30 miles of public land trails. And then in the Botwell area, we have about 20 miles of trails that are on private lands that are only accessible June 1st to September 30th. So, there's a few things like that. North Harmony is open all year long, and in Botwell, we're not because of the soils in Botwell Hill. Botwell Hill is a very wet area, and so we try and be very respectful of the soils in that area. We've got a lot coming up. One of the things that we do have is we have a brand new logo. We're very happy with that, very proud. And then we're doing some things. So our poster is up and on Facebook. And then please save the date. One of our big fundraisers this year is August 24th. It's a Sunday at the Cabins at Farrington Hollow. It's a huge supporter of ours. We're having a meat raffle. And if you haven't been, they are a riot. A little bit bigger than the ham turkey raffles. So you gotta be there, okay? So we're looking forward to it. We really thank the support that we have. And come on out on the 21st. We're not doing horseback rides, but there will be wagon rides starting at noon. And that's a part of the organization, the Collins Draft Horse, Ox, and Pony Club that helped be a part of the Botwell Hill Ski Club grant. So, thank you.
Rails to Trails. Hey. Good afternoon. I'm Bill Ward with Chautauqua Rails to Trails, and I want to thank these guys who have worked so hard, the folks that you've heard mentioned today, and we're in charge of pulling you all together. In 2019, Chautauqua Rails to Trails, under the direction of Jim Fincher, underwent a strategic plan, and I can say that as of last year, pretty much 90% of our goals had been met. We understood the reality and the need for a new strategic plan. So we just did that about a month and a half ago with Kate Ebersol. As a matter of fact, I just received the final draft for our 5-year strategic plan yesterday. So we are grateful that we now, I happen to run the meetings, but we have a whole bunch of leaders on our board, and I'm really, really grateful for them. As you can see, a lot of our work, and this is all volunteer work, has to do with infrastructure. That would be mostly repair. We've got 1 million culverts that are in a state of disrepair. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but there's a bunch.
And of course, servicing and all of the stuff you see here, as well as maintenance. I do want to thank, I'll join the other groups in thanking our trail czar, Tom Wright, for the hard work that he does. I cannot tell you how many, he could, but I can tell you how many downed trees we've had this year. It has been just probably a record year for downed trees and also widowmakers. So he's out there trying to chase after that stuff in this gorgeous spring weather we've had. The cool thing about where we are, where the Chautauqua Rails to Trails sits, is that we are essentially a linchpin between the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail effort and the Empire State Trail. It isn't, I wouldn't say it's overly ambitious to believe that we are that close to the Empire State Trail as well. So, you know, what has happened is the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail folks, as well as the Industrial Heartland Trail folks, understand how important the Erie to Pittsburgh, or the Chautauqua, 26 miles of Chautauqua Rails to Trails is to that effort. It cannot be understated how important this segment is to those efforts. It's so important, as a matter of fact, that they came up here at the end of last year. They came up here. That would be the Erie to Pittsburgh folks, the Industrial Heartlands Trail folks, and the Northwest Pennsylvania Trail folks came here and met with us because they understand the importance of Chautauqua Rails to Trails to their efforts. So Patrick Johnson, for the last few years, one of our board members has been working, for instance, with the Sherman to Corey segment. That's going to be the linchpin of the linchpin. And now John McEwen and I are working on sewing up some of those alliances there, and it is all about connections. It's all about making these relationships with folks, both with our trails and the adjacent neighboring trails. And you know, there are private property owners that are really, really responding in a way that I never thought 5 years ago that would. You know, it's a really cool thing. What that means of course, for the big picture is that people are going to have this resource that perhaps has not been realized. What it means to the folks in Chautauqua County, to villages like Mayville and Sherman and Brockton and Corey, is that they have a real shot of being having a national trail town status, which is a huge deal. We've had some folks talk about the numbers of the trail use. The trail use is through the roof, and it's because one of the things is that this kind of collaboration here brings us all together and helps us to realize how we can leverage each other's resources as well as the resources in each of our organizations. So thank you for doing this. Thank you to the county. Thank you for I'm getting there. To all of these folks who really are redefining the word collaboration with regard to the Chautauqua County Trails. In terms of our events and the ways that you can help, of course, Get Big Chautauqua is coming tomorrow. Go to all of the organizations and spread it around, because it's not necessarily about the amount, it's about the consistency of giving. So make sure you respond as much as you can to that. We are not doing our annual wine walk this year. It's being replaced by another event in Sherman that might involve beer. And no, it absolutely will. And music and some wine and some trails. So that'll be fun. The Chautauqua Rails to Trails has taken over the Mayville Bluegrass Festival as well. So we'll be presenting that this year again at Big Inlet Brewing. Some great national and regional acts coming up. That is August 16th. There are some posters right outside there. You can take some with you or one with you if you have a place to put it. There's also a QR code on the poster from which you can just buy a ticket. So the tickets are on the Zephy platform. It is an exciting time to be working on trails, and we as Rails for Trails are really, really excited to partner with all of you. Thanks a lot.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff Molnar, and I guess my official title is the mayor of the village of Beams Point. I'll just give you a little bit of a very short history of how this came about. My wife and I are huge trail users and paddlers, and we kind of came up with this idea that perhaps maybe there ought to be a paddle trail, a blue way around Chautauqua Lake. So after some market research, it's very interesting. You know, I looked at a couple different situations, and one in particular in southern Michigan. They said the economic impact was like $50 million. So I took that mileage and I extrapolated it into what this is. This is about 6 miles long here, and I figured the impact here is like $1.2 million. So I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but anyway, it's good. So at the urging of Dave McCoy, the county's watershed coordinator, I was very fortunate to apply for and received a grant from the county in-lake money to be able to create this. It's essentially a virtual trail. There's no environmental impact. As I said, it's about 6 miles long. It starts at the Ellery line, works its way around past Beams Creek, under the bridge, around the bend in Beavis Bay and ending at Long Point State Park. We're in the process right now of having some signs built for each of the 3 waypoints. And there'll be QR codes where users can take their phone, which will be in a waterproof bag, of course, and take a picture of the QR code. The trail will be on there. There'll be links to all of these great points on here, points of interest, museums, businesses, and it's with hopes that we can get people to come back. It was interesting, when I first started to research this a little bit, I talked to Andrew Nixon over at the Visitors and Convention Bureau, and he said, we have people all the time that ask about paddle trails. So it's great. So I'm very excited about this. Further good news is I just received the news yesterday that the DEC has awarded the contract to redo our boat launch in Bemis Point, which does include a handicapped boat kayak launch. The thing that we hope for is I can create enough interest here to ring the lake. We can continue this around. This fits right in with the Chautauqua Greenway plan. We're going to try to get it on the trails website. As I said, my wife and I paddle all the lakes, and we want to try to get into some of the creeks. And I know you've been working very hard to get some of the creeks cleaned up. And again, as everybody has kind of echoed here, kudos to everyone for all the trails and all the other economic impact that we'll receive from all this. So pretty excited about it. So thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Don't think anybody from the city of Jamestown is here, so I will just jump in here really quickly. And if Jeff's Blue Way Trail, if I had a little bit more notice, I would have probably added another slide in here as well, because I'll just go in reverse order. The bottom picture that you see right there was an event that the city of Jamestown's Department of Development hosted last Saturday, where 2 of their consultants who were working on their LWRP, their local waterfront revitalization plan, as well as another group working on activating the Chautauqua River Basin as it sort of sits in the middle of Jamestown, right by the power plant, behind the comedy center and the train station. There too, everybody's looking at the economic opportunities that exist there, right? And increasingly, more and more interest is going to the waterways. So we actually had a public event with the consultants and some folks from the city to just bring people out there and just chat, just to see what the pros and cons are, just hear what people are thinking, what they're seeing, what they'd like to be seeing in the future. And we had, I think, over 30 people showed up. So here you can see us going into the city in the Chautauqua River. But just to add to Mayor Molnar's Blueway concept, the city of Jamestown has been putting out additional kayak or handicapped accessible kayak launches as well. There's one on Pleasant Avenue at the end, which puts you within near spitting distance of sail around. So it's, even though it's not an official Blueway trail yet, the ability to paddle from the Sail Around Lighthouse and have the several stops as you work your way all the way into downtown Jamestown is pretty cool. So part of the consultants' work right now is to figure out, like, what do we do? We're talking about, like, what do? You end up in your kayak in downtown Jamestown. You want to go grab a cup of coffee. There are no bike racks or kayak racks. Like, can we find a place where we can, like, lock up your kayaks and, like, have lockers where you can put your stuff so you can just go walk and do your thing and paddle back. So all of these things are still in the early stages, but these discussions are just getting bigger and bigger, and more people are coming in. Mark would like to add something.
Add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
I don't know how much people know that we've been working for about 4 or 5 years on a project to activate the waterfront behind the National Comedy Center in the basin there. And we received 2 different grants totaling $2 million. You know, we went through the whole process of hiring a firm, you know, public meetings, conceptualizing, costing, all that stuff. And so we got $2 million, and what that's going to do, and that what that really came from was we weren't positive that the Chautauqua was navigable all the way from Chautauqua Lake all the way down, but Twan was involved in an effort to do a bathymetric survey to really look at the depths, and there was really no major obstructions all the way down. So the fact is that not only could kayaks go down there, but there could be motorized vehicles. And so one of the things that we're putting in down here is a boat launch or a dock for not only kayaks, but also a water taxi that would go from like the Harbor Hotel or other places all the way down to the basin so that people could get off there and go to the National Comedy Center, etc. But the other projects that are going to happen are like signature gardens, trails that kind of run around through there, a visitor's kiosk, benches, tiered seating, and a couple of other things. So that area down there behind the National Comedy Center is going to become very vibrant. And, you know, people are attracted to water. And so by doing this, we're hoping to get more and more people to come down from Chautauqua Lake or come directly into the city of Jamestown and use the water resources. So all good stuff.
Yeah,
Thanks.
very exciting stuff. Before we get to that point, we were realizing fairly recently that the banks along the basin were collapsing and trees were about to fall in. There were a bunch of dead and dying trees out there. So the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy has been working with the city of Jamestown for the last almost 3 years right now to actually restore all the banks, rebuild all the banks around the basin and several sections of the Chautauqua River to remove some of these old crumbling infrastructure elements. I still hear this. I'm in the Chautauqua River almost every day, and people still think it's some sort of like toxic wasteland, but the water quality is absolutely tremendous. It is actually filled with several endangered species. We actually have our soft-shell turtles, which are sort of becoming the mascot for the river at this point. The downtown Jamestown area has the largest population of flying soft-shell turtles anywhere in New York State. It's a state listed species. They all live in Jamestown. So it's the window dressing. We just have 100-year-old infrastructure crumbling around. The river is falling apart, creating issues, erosion, sediment loss, all kinds of parts that are caving in. So gradually we're chipping away at stabilizing these banks and trying to actually replace them with what we call living shorelines. So we're replacing them with armoring where needed so that they don't fall apart again. But what really keeps these banks together is vegetation. It's the roots that go into the soil and keep it all together. If you just have rocks and dirt and you get a big rainstorm like we had the other night, I was just there just before this meeting, the damage just sediment just washing away when you have intense storms like that. It's just tremendous. So hopefully, we're still working on it today, planting away and filling up the gaps in there, but in the next year or two, this will continue to green up, and it'll essentially be a giant butterfly garden right along the Riverwalk in the Jamestown area right there. So the path is already there with all the improvements coming that Mark mentioned. The profile of the path will actually be raised some more, and we're hoping to get more and more people out there. So we're also creating additional natural assets so people have something else to look at there as well. So the city of Jamestown's impact on the trails is primarily on the Riverwalk. So this is the most active area that the city is working on right now. But obviously, the remainders of the Riverwalk system will continue to be maintained by the city and are accessible as well. So I'm just going to jump into the Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy. We have 38 preserves all over the county. They're all open to the public. Not all of them have trails in them, but they're all freely accessible to anybody who wants to. So some are a little bit more adventurous than others. So trail day or not trail day, any time of the year, you're always welcome to come and visit our preserves and enjoy the beautiful areas out there. We're on track right now. I just did the numbers yesterday. The organization's been around for 34 years, and we broke the 1,000-acre mark about 3 years ago. It looks like we'll be doubling our protected areas quantity in probably the next 2 years. We're going to be doubling our holdings and having that much more land to protect it. And mostly what we're trying to focus on is protecting the land that protects our water. So we're protecting the banks that will filter rainwater and runoff before it actually goes into our streams and lakes, so that the lakes and the streams will stay cleaner. And as a county, as a region, we'll continue to have for generations to come clean water, which is another thing that will bring people undoubtedly to this area. We're not living on the West Coast where every year you have to worry about your house catching on fire or other kinds of horrible climate change driven issues where people are running out of drinking water, running out of irrigation water for agriculture. We don't have that problem, and hopefully we'll never get to that point if we're smart enough about where we protect the watershed so that we can keep our water here and keep it clean. So I wanted to quickly focus a little bit on the county waterways, the Morgan Cobb Waterway Trail that's managed by the County Parks Department. As most of you probably know, I didn't put any of the horrible pictures in there because I'm tired of looking at all the disasters out there. But I wanted to share the positive news that after the Amarillo ash borer knocked down almost every single one of our ash trees, which is about 25% of our trees across the landscape, and how, as gravity tends to do, to make these things roll down the hill, and this area seems to be, there's always a creek at the bottom of the hill. All these ash trees have just been piling up in our waterways for 10 plus years. So unfortunately, the Morgan Cobb Waterway, even though it still exists on paper, was not really navigable or even maintainable because there were so many trees in there. It was absolutely horrendous. So with great support from the county and through ARPA funding and with help from the county Parks Department and DPF, we've been chipping away at the county waterways. And for those of you who don't know that, theoretically, we would have over 50 miles of paddleable water out here. And if we would actually add the Chautauqua River to that, we would have almost 60 miles. And theoretically, you would actually, I didn't bring my pointer, but obviously you got Chautauqua Lake right here, and Chautauqua River connecting with Casadega Creek. Casadega Creek comes out of Bear Lake and Casadega Lakes. So our waterways are connecting 3 of our major lakes in the county right here. So think about a future where we could potentially just recreationally travel from Chautauqua Lake to Casadega Lakes or the way around. That'd be pretty cool. So anyway, the 50 miles were not really navigable, but in the last 2 years, we've been able to clear almost 30 miles of that already. So I don't want to say it out loud yet because the weather hasn't really been cooperative. I've been trying to get out there as much as possible to see the areas that we have cleared in the last few years that they were still clear, because winters come and go and storms come and go, and we still have a lot of that ash standing that are still falling down. And we actually had a real winter with real snow melt. And I don't know if you've ever seen the flood stages of Conowingo Creek and Casadega Creek, but it goes up 10, 15 feet. So it's huge. There's a massive amount of material that comes through those areas. I just looked at this yesterday. So somebody asked me this. If you look at the bottom point where Conowingo Creek, the Green Line leaves New York and goes into Pennsylvania, that section of the river right there funnels almost 500,000 acres of watershed. So anything that falls within that 500,000 acres, including all of the Chautauqua Lake watershed, Cassadaga Creek and Cassadaga Lakes and Bear Lakes watersheds, that's just the New York section. Eventually we'll have to pass through that little bottleneck down there. So you can imagine when stuff just starts piling up, it goes really quickly and really spectacularly. So the good news is that the green section down there, about 7 miles, we just paddled last week. That's free and clear to go. So if you want to hop in your kayak today and you want to go kayaking, I would recommend you go there. On the trails day, we're hoping to actually have the section between K-Bop at the very top and the Redbird Corner section is about 3 miles open for recreation. So if the weather actually collaborates, we'll sweep that next week. And we've already scanned the other 18 miles down there, and we have some work to do still from trees that have come down in the last winter. So we're looking at a couple of days worth of work. But again, if the weather cooperates, before we start working on the section that really needs work still right here in the middle, I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks or so, we can have about 30 miles of the waterways open for kayaking and canoeing. So it'll be the first time in probably, I don't know when, 30, 40 years maybe. So we're really excited about that, and we're really hoping that on Trails Day we can kick this off and get a lot of people out there, because it just has not been possible to do this for a long time. So that's the big thing. So I recommend for now, if you're really into boating, just stay out of that central area right there, because you're going to run into all kinds of unpleasantness, and it's just not safe just yet. But the red pins on the map are the county kayak launches, so you can find yourself stretched between those and still have a great time out there. It's absolutely gorgeous out there. We just got a small grant from the county as well to start putting some kiosks out there on the kayak launches as well. So soon there will be wayfinding signs and some maps out there too, so you actually know where you're going and where you can pull out again. And again, this is just the foundation. It's just going to get better going forward. So exciting stuff.
Yeah, me again. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the improvements we're actually going to be making to the Mayville Park, Lakeside Park in Mayville. We received a $600,000 grant-ish. And we'll be putting in kayak launches, improvements to the Stowe Ferry dock, and some trails at the park itself. So that's something to look forward to. I think we'll be doing that by next summer, if I understand that correctly. I'm also a board member of the Western New York Mountain Bicycling Association. We have currently 3 main places we maintain trails, which is Whalen Memorial State Forest, Harris Hill State Forest, and Long Point State Park. We recently opened 2 new trails last year. We have that picture there where we had the grand opening. Blue Heron and Amish Buggy, which is aptly named because it's in the middle of Sherman. A lot of Amish buggies rolling around out there. And we also just opened a new trail in Harris Hill State Forest called Funky Town, which we worked on last weekend. We're doing upgrades to Harris Hill State Forest and new trail signs at Harris Hill Extension through the ARPA funds, and new trail signs at Whalen Memorial State Forest. So both these places were open for a long time for mountain biking, but we didn't have any signs up, and you kind of get lost in the fall. The leaves are down and everything. So we went out and installed a whole bunch of signs, and I'm really excited about all that. And then we just had National Trails Day, which was on June 7th at Harris Hill State Forest, and we had about 25 or 30 people show up. So a lot of exciting things are happening in the mountain biking world, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Want to do that?
Yeah, I can take that one. So as you can tell, we have a lot of really great things in the works on here, and we want to continue to have an opportunity to inform people and come together. So our next public meeting is tentatively scheduled. I'm kind of looking over in Missy's direction to see if it's confirmed yet. Is it confirmed yet, Missy, the reservation?
I will.
Okay.
I gotta talk to her, but that's it. We should be fine.
Awesome. So we're gonna get on your calendar right now. We're gonna come together in that in North County. It's gonna be a great time at a great venue, and a big shout out to Missy for helping with the reservations onto that one. And we want to thank everybody for attending, but I think, do we want to talk a little bit about accessibility more, Tuan, as well?
I can really quickly.
Yeah.
I just wanted to introduce to everybody here one of our interns, James Haig, who's over there. James has been working with the Resource Center and with Chautauqua Watershed Conservancy, and he's on his second consecutive internship because he will not go away. He's got so much, he's got so much enthusiasm, and his main focus is to try to figure out among all the different trail groups what we can do collectively to increase accessibility to any of our trails, regardless of what the priority trail use is. So he put together a survey and he would love to hear from all of you. So if you could go talk to him after this meeting, that'd be great. Thank you.
Well, we want to open this up. Any questions from the audience? Okay, question?
How are you making your signs? What do they look like, and how do you make your signs? If you put up lots of, for instance, gentleman there.
Yeah, so the question is, for everybody who's viewing this on YouTube, how are we making our signs? How are they put together? And then what are they coming together with? And I know different trail organizations do it in different way. I want to give a big shout out to Wendy Llewellyn, who does terrific for Chautauqua Rails to Trails on all the signage. So if you can join me in showing appreciation for all the great work because I think this is so important to have proper signage because, so often, as Tuan and others alluded to, one of the things that I think we've all heard in Chautauqua County is when somebody finds out there's a trail, they go, well, I didn't know that was there. How did that happen? And especially sometimes when it's so close to somebody's house, which is so important for the signage, so important for the trail map on here as well, too. But is there any trail group that wants to speak on the signs?
Are you asking about material or?
Yeah, material,
material,
methods.
okay.
I mean, do you start with a computer? How do you generate them? I'm trying to do it on my own property, and it's not a trivial question.
Wendy, do you have some insight?
We have had a lot of success with Faulkner printing and Quick Solution for our, but there are a lot of.
My hearing isn't very good.
So for the online viewers, and just to put over the microphone as well, too, Wendy said that she's had great luck working with Faulkner Printing and Quick Solutions, correct, Wendy, on the signage out there?
But there are a lot of decisions to make about what materials we use. Metal does not necessarily mean indestructible. They bend in the wind. There are a lot of decisions to make about what you use and what you're going to post them on. Takes a lot of good volunteers.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy, on that one. Any other questions from the audience?
Well, I worked on greenways and trails over on the Susquehanna River for 30-some years, and a big issue for us was connectivity. So collaborating, I saw there was an industrial slide that you had up there, collaborating with trail systems to each direction to know what their plans are so that you know how to prepare yourselves for through traffic.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great point. I know myself and Bill Ward from Chautauqua Rails to Trails, we serve on the Erie to Pittsburgh Board of Directors onto that one, which the Industrial Heartlands Trail Coalition is an essential part of that. And it's very important for people to think of that because sometimes we see a trail just going down and maybe we think about it for a mile or two, but in the Erie to Pittsburgh Trail, when that comes to fruition, that's going to be 270 miles. And, that's the narrative sometimes that people don't really understand. I know I was dropping off trail maps a few weeks ago at Prospect Station at Chautauqua Rails to Trails, and a biker came up, and I said to the biker, I said, where are you from? And he said, Toronto. He goes, I came down from Toronto to, come down this way. And I said, well, where are you going? And he said, Washington, D.C. And, it just makes you so much more aware of our connectivity, our role. I mean, what Bill Ward alluded to, and what I've quite clearly said, these organizations are very vested in the success of trails in Chautauqua County. So yeah, it's very critical for us to have that connectivity and working together for sure. Yeah.
But I was impressed when you talked about how you realized that just a little piece of your trails were really essential to these larger trail systems. We found the same thing.
And how they realize it.
Yeah.
That's as big a picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great because when I was at one of the Erie to Pittsburgh Board of Director meetings down in Pennsylvania, they said, we want to come to Chautauqua County for a meeting. Knowing how important it is, knowing how critical it is on that front. And that was great when they came.
That was fabulous.
Yeah, wonderful. Question up there?
This is a waterway question. Has there ever been a solution to try to gather the trash that collects behind the water dam?
Short answer is no, but we do have quite a few ideas. I think the original plans that were in place to capture the trash before it gets to the dam would require running a cable across the river, which would then interfere with our ability to get kayaks and boats getting into the city as well. So we're looking into other options right now, which will likely take place farther downstream. But there's a bigger question that needs to be addressed, and that's the functionality of the dam and how it works and how it's constructed. So unfortunately, the current setup for the dam involves gates that push down into the water. So water can be running underneath the gates and the trash will likely float on top. So the trash will float on the current into the dam, but will not go through the dam because of the way the dam is constructed. There are a whole bunch of other issues that need to be addressed still. So it's not like we don't have a solution. It's just that it's part of a much bigger conversation that's still being explored.
What do you do with all the stuff that you're taking out of the river, out of the creek?
Oh, that's a good question. So dead, aged ash trees are wonderful firewood. So honestly, in places where we're close to roads, we just put a come and get it sign on it and it usually just walks away. But actually in places where we can't really access, so we're often working in places that are so far from paved roads that we're doing everything from the water. And what we're trying to do actually is actually try to not necessarily extract the lumber from the waterways, but actually using the current to wrap it against the bank. So we actually use the dead trees as extra armoring.
As extra what?
Armoring, so the banks are better protected. And often it's the weaker trees like willows and silver maples that tend to grow really big and fall apart really easily too. And willows are great because you can life stake them. So often when we have a willow fall down, we actually float it against the bank and then we'll take the smaller twigs and just stick them in the banks and they'll grow into small willow trees. So we're actually using a bad scenario and turning it into an improvement for the waterways.
So if you're working from the water, what kind of craft are you on to be safe using?
It depends on the size of the water. If you're in the very top of the watershed, the creek might be just 15 feet wide. But if you're down at the bottom, it's a much bigger thing because, like I said, 500,000 acres of watershed drain into that. But we're using barges and a variety of different watercrafts. The real strength is the guys doing this incredible work. They're all just incredible. They're big guys who can carry stuff that I couldn't even try to carry. So the trick really is to cut stuff up small enough that it doesn't cause any problem when it comes downstream and cut it small enough that it could be taken out. We've been really impressed actually with the collaboration we're getting from property owners along the waterways because again, it's 50 miles of waterways and you've got properties on both sides. So you're looking at 100 miles of people's properties that you're working in. So I've been knocking on a lot of doors and it's pretty rare that people say, no, we don't want you on our property. And whenever we can get access to the water, we'll try to bring in some small excavators. We use really small equipment, so we're not leaving a mark on the landscape at all. And there too, if we can pull lumber out of the river, people will have firewood for years to come. And if we can't pull it out, then usually it just stays there. It's in the floodplain, so it just goes underwater a couple times a year anyway. And it just becomes part of the ecosystem.
I don't want to suck up too much air here, but I wanted to say that we studied tracking of wildlife and established where our wildlife corridors were. And particularly with 86, you'll find a lot of places where the highways are interrupting your wildlife corridors, and having an awareness of where they are so that you can make plans for how the wildlife are going to safely cross 86. That can set up some big grants.
Actually, there is actually a project ongoing that looks exactly at those things. We're collaborating with the Western New York Land Conservancy, and they have a landscape model. It's a model based out of Florida. It's called the Wildways landscape model. And they're looking exactly at that connectivity in the landscape, mostly large forest blocks to allow larger animals to move through. And we're in year 2 right now of having trail cameras on those kind of overpasses to see what kind of wildlife actually uses those areas. How can we mitigate this so we have fewer impacts, cars hitting deer, things like that. So we're trying to map exactly where large animals are moving through the landscape based on forest cover and things like that. So it's still a process, but in the next year or 2, we'll have a better handle on exactly where we would have to do those kind of improvements as well. Fencing off sections of highway or putting overpasses in, for example.
Sounds great, John.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all for coming. I hope to see all of you on Trails Day. And yeah, please, if you could, or if you don't mind me sharing your contact information with James, if you don't mind him sending out a questionnaire to you, so just to see how the different trail groups can interact with like improving accessibility in your trails, that'd be wonderful. Thank you all. Thanks.